Hey peeps, welcome back to another video. Today I want to talk about the new lockout system coming into Cataclysm for raids. But before we do that, I actually have to go back all the way to Vanilla WoW. In Vanilla WoW, we already had different player sizes of raids. We had Ruins with 20 man, we had Onyx's Lair and Temple of 40 man, then we had 20 man Zul'Gurub and 40 man Molten Core Blackwing Lair and Naxxramas. And going into TBC, we actually had 10 man raids with Karazhan. Then of course we had the legendary Magtheridon's Lair and Gru's Lair, where you actually had to go to Gru's Lair for 200 phases to get the stupid trinket. Raids with only a few bosses to get the valuable items, actually in my opinion not even that bad. It's a quick in and out and you get cool items if you actually get lucky. Then we had the Serpentshrine Cavern and Tempest Keep raid. Let me know in the comments which one you prefer, but I was definitely a Serpentshrine Cavern person. I loved that raid before actually they nerfed it to the ground. Tempest Keep, I hated all the damn time. I just couldn't get into it. And now of course Black Temple and Hyjal. No one I know actually likes Hyjal. I mean, that raid was literally just clearing trash and waiting for the bosses. And in TBC, loads of classes didn't have AoE, so most of the classes were just literally sitting there bored. One of the worst raids in my opinion, super bad design, definitely could have been skipped. Black Temple on the other hand, was quite fun. I mean, it wasn't the best, but it was definitely way better than Hyjal. But now let's talk about the best raid, not ever made, but definitely in a few expansions, Sunwell Plateau. That raid was absolutely amazing. Of course, for speedrunners, it wasn't great because of the NG skip. Sunwell Plateau had a decent difficulty comparing it to other raids that were actually out before. The bosses were super fun to do, the loot was really nice. I loved the system where you had bracers as tier as well, so it was kind of easy to get your full set. So this is definitely a big W. And of course we had 10-man Zul'Aman, which in my opinion was one of the coolest raids added, not because it was hard or anything like that. You had a Biz Trinket as a caster in there, so you had to go for it. But it was also a 10-man, it was only a few bosses, and the bosses were kind of fun to do. I mean, it wasn't hard by any means, but just chilling with 10 people, making jokes and, you know, laughing was, in my opinion, one of the best experiences I had in TBC. On top of that, there was nothing really at stake. I mean, yeah, you had the timer. If you didn't really get the timer, you lost your mount, which is kind of sad, but at the same time, ZA did have a 3-day lockout. When you do it every 3 days, or even, you know, every couple lockouts, at the end, you will have the mount. Everyone in my guild got the mount at the end, and everyone was happy. I mean, the raid was overall just a very positive experience. Now, one simple thing that changed going from TBC and Vanilla into Wrath of the Lich King is that every single raid had a 10-man and 25-man version, meaning you had technically double the content to do, and there were some items in 10-man that were Biz or actually close to Biz that you needed to grab, so you had to do it as well. Let me know in the comments what you think of needing to do 10-man and 25-man. Is it too much content for you guys, or do you think it's actually a good idea? In my opinion, 10-man loses a lot of value really fast, so you do it at the start, but it falls off pretty damn hard, so you don't really do it that much anymore. But coming into Wrath, we also had a lot of changes towards raiding. We had the normal raiding with 25 and a 10-man, but then we went into Polidora, where you had to activate the hard mode doing certain things or not doing certain things. Like on Freya, where you had to not kill the trees to activate hard mode, or where on Vesax you actually had to just not kill the little things that fly around to get mana, making the fight super long because you just have to wait AFK. Then they went to a different system in TOGC and ICC where you could swap between heroic and normal. On ICC you could swap between heroic and normal on every single boss, which was actually quite helpful when you were progging and you just couldn't do it, but obviously all of these raids still had one flaw from Vanilla to Wrath, the lockout system. Once you did one boss in any of these raids, you were locked to the whole raid and you couldn't just go to a different raid and, you know, let's say you do the first 5 bosses in ICC and then the raid falls apart. You couldn't just say, okay guys, let me join a different raid and kill the bosses with you. That actually changes in Cataclysm. Cataclysm changed it to have a dynamic lockout system. How it works is pretty simple. Let's say on Wednesday you killed the first 2 bosses in Firelands, but unfortunately you have something going on in real life, so you need to hop off. But then 2 days later, you still can do the 3rd, 4th, and 5th boss because you are not locked to one instance, but locked by boss-to-boss basis. There's one unfortunate thing though. While players can move freely between raids on different sides of the normal difficulty, there are some additional rules for heroic difficulty. So if a 10 or 25 player raid defeats a boss on heroic difficulty, then those players may only raid additional heroic encounters with that specific raid. So if your heroic 25 player raid defeats the first 4 bosses in Icecrown Citadel on heroic, they may not split up in, let's say, 2 10-man groups and continue the fight on heroic difficulty. You may also not join somebody else's raid if they have defeated a heroic encounter. But let's say you are a member of a heroic raid in Icecrown Citadel. After killing Lord Maruga on heroic, you have internet connection issues. That prevents you from raiding for 2 nights. During those 2 nights, the rest of the raid kills everything. Without the flexible raid lockout system, so on boss-to-boss basis, you would be done with raiding in Icecrown Citadel for the week. With the flexible raid lockout system, you can join someone else's raid as long as they are doing normal difficulty. So if you do heroic on one boss, you can unfortunately not join a different heroic raid, but you can still do it on normal. And at the start, or even on a new phase in Cataclysm, it is still quite helpful to get normal loot gear. Of course, it's a very sad thing because, you know, otherwise it would work like that, like it does in retail, where you can do heroic bosses with basically 20 different pugs. And of course, in Cataclysm as well, you have the option to do, let's say, the first 2 bosses on 25 man, and then you decide you don't want to raid with the people anymore, or the raid falls apart. You can then still do the 10-man version as well. 10-man drops the same loot, but just less, meaning you can swap between 10-man and 25-man all you want. It's super easy. So let's say you get up to the last boss and you have 25 people and 10 people don't know the fight, and you notice that they're just not getting the fight, so you cannot kill it. So you get your 10 people that know the fight together and just kill the last boss on 10-man. Super cool system in my opinion. It actually really helps a lot because just getting through the content will be way easier, because getting 10 people together that are decent and know the fight is easier than having 25 people together if you obviously are not a very serious guild, because there's always people going to be just chilling and not looking at tactics and just, you know, do the learning by doing thing, which is totally fine in my opinion. It really depends on your guild and your guild ethic, because, you know, if your guild is a chiller guild, then you can't really blame people for not trying too hard because you are in a chill guild. It is what it is. So that's it. I mean, as you can see, Cataclysm changes are quite decent along with raiding, which is super duper cool. So if you guys ever have issues with pugs or anything really with your guild, if it falls apart, or maybe your guild can only raid 1 day a week because the second day a lot of people are absent, it doesn't really matter because you can just pug the rest of the bosses.